One of the most annoying things about my first quilts are how the backing fabric prints do not match up at all. Today, I'm going to show you how I match up the prints on the back to go from looking like this to looking like this. All you need is some glue and your iron. And your 2 pieces of fabric, of course. So here I have my 2 pieces of backing fabric that I need to line up. You'll want to put the 2 sides together that you'll be matching up to kind of get an idea of how it's going to end up. And then you take one of those pieces. So for this one, I'm taking my left piece and I'm folding that whole long edge that I'm going to match up to the other one over by 1.25 inches. The amount that you fold it over doesn't matter. So you could do 1 inch, 2 inches, whatever you want. I feel most comfortable with about 1.25 inches. And this is smaller print, but if you're looking to match up larger prints, you might want to plan that out a little differently, but I am doing 1.25 inches here. So I'm actually using my ruler to make sure that it's consistent the whole way through. You could also use like one of those seam tools, but I'm just using my ruler here and my iron to press it down because you'll want to make sure that that fold sticks in place for our next step. Like I said, however much you want to fold over doesn't really matter. What matters is that it is consistent along the entire edge. So just go along that whole long edge and press it down. Once you have that entire edge pressed down, we are going to start matching up the prints. So you take your other piece and we're going to start lining them up. So you need to find where the print matches. For mine, it was actually quite a few inches in before I found a spot that lined up really good. But once you find it, this is when you can start gluing. And if this is your first time using glue on your quilting projects and you're feeling freaked out, don't worry, so was I at first, but I have yet to have an issue with it and it always washes out for me. I just use plain old Elmer's glue. I've also seen people use glue sticks. Just remember during this part that you only need a little much. I was actually a little bit too heavy on the glue this time when I was doing this. Here I am just putting a little dab of glue underneath the fold where I want to match up my fabrics, and then I put my iron on it after it's all lined up. Here I'm using a little too much, so take it from me, just do a little bit less than what I'm doing here. But this will make it stick really nice together so that when you take it to your sewing machine, it should not shift. So all I do is go along the entire long folded edge, put a little glue in between your fold and the bottom fabric there, and then press my iron on top of it. You'll notice as I go along that mine isn't exactly perfect how I line them up. It is totally up to you how much of a perfectionist as you are or not. I'm sort of the good enough type of gal, but however much time you want to spend on this, totally up to you. I find that even if there's just a little slight shift and they don't match up completely 100%, it's not even noticeable after you've quilted and washed it and everything. And yes, I did realize about halfway through doing this that this would have gone a lot quicker if I would have laid my fabric or the seam going on the long side of my iron, but once I got going, I was committed to this direction and I didn't feel like messing with it. Once you have that entire edge glued down, you're going to very carefully take that top piece and fold it back over. So now the 2 backing pieces will be right sides together. Once you have that folded over, you should see that fold that you pressed. Since I was too heavy on the glue, mine were kind of sticking together here and I had to pull it apart. So that's why you want to go easy on the glue. But it's really not a big deal either way. It's just a little more work here since I have to pull these pieces apart. If you're not feeling comfortable that the glue is holding these in place, you can also add pins. If you were adding pins, it would be on the left side of that crease there. Now what we're going to do is take this to our sewing machine and go ahead and sew right in that crease that you had pressed, all the way from the top to the bottom. So here you'll see here, there is my line, and I'm just going to sew right along that all the way down. Depending on what size of quilt you're making, this is going to be a lot of fabric, so make sure that all of your fabric is pushed off to the side so that we don't accidentally sew through it. Once I've sewn all the way along this crease, I do open it up before trimming it down just to make sure that it's looking how I wanted. And if it looks good, I go ahead and trim it down. So I find where I just sewn that seam, I go out 1/2 inch. You can do however much you want. And I just trim all this excess fabric off. I was really happy with the size of scrap I got off of mine because I got this cute little selvage. I love the Ruby Star selvages. But now all you have left to do is press that new seam. And of course, I did not notice that my camera was not catching this. Since I used too much glue, I'm not pressing it open, but I would suggest pressing it open if you can. But I'm pressing mine off to one side, and that's it. That is how I put my backing pieces together, and this is how this one turned out. Now I'm off to do my Halloween quilt one.